Let's talk a little bit about censorship. And I remember the time when TEDx took your talk off many, many years ago and put you in the the bad boys room, and then they had to
naughty
repopulate
corner,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, funny enough, my TEDx talk disappeared for a few weeks in 2020 as well.
Interesting, yeah.
I found that fascinating. It reminded me of what you and Sheldrick had gone through. But you were not allowed in certain sites during your Netflix series.
That's true.
And one of them was in my home country of the United States of America, and I think it might have been a national park site. And that bothered me, that a visitor or a citizen wasn't allowed to go somewhere that should be the people's land.
Well, yes.
And yet you were denied.
It was specifically, we wanted to film at Serpent Mound in Ohio, but the Ohio History Connection, which runs Serpent Mound, denied us filming permission. There was a long discussion. I was not directly involved in the discussion. The discussion was between ITN Productions, who made the show for Netflix, and the authorities at Serpent Mound. And the outcome of that discussion was, when it became clear to the authorities at Serpent Mound that I was presenting the show, they then wrote an email, which I've now put up on my website. It's in my blog, their entire email. And at the end of it, what they say is that filming permission is refused because Graham Hancock's view of Serpent Mound differs from our own. That's basically what they're saying. They're saying that because my view does not accord with their view, they're not going to allow me to film there. Now, to my mind, that is plain, straightforward censorship. And anybody who doubts that I was censored, just go to my website, just go to my blog, look for the title "For the Records" and for the record, and you will see reproduced the email that we received from the authorities at Serpent Mound, which undoubtedly, very clearly, in plain English, banned us from filming there because my views did not accord with theirs.
And then they have now changing their narrative on this and saying now that they didn't say that, but you have the proof and you were there in the series.
I've got the proof in writing.
Yeah.
And that proof is just going to stay there on my website with "For the Record" as the headline, so that people can satisfy themselves that any spin that Serpent Mound authorities are putting on this today, trying to tell visitors, no, I wasn't banned or whatever, and I have heard reports of that. Any spin that they are putting on this can be quickly reconciled just by going and looking at their email.
You told me you're no longer allowed to travel to Egypt as well.
Well, I'm certainly not allowed to film in Egypt. We very much wanted to do an episode in Egypt. Egypt's been a very important part of my argument over the last 30 years. I was very keen to do one of the 8 episodes in Egypt. But unfortunately, again, rather like at Serpent Mound, when the Egyptian authorities learned that Graham Hancock would be presenting the episode, they immediately refused filming permission. I think there are a range of complicated reasons behind that. One of them is a senior Egyptologist called Zahi Hawass, who has had ministerial positions in the past. He was Minister of Culture, and he's now the primary advisor to the Egyptian government on anybody who requests filming permission. And I've had a long relationship with Zahi over many years. It's not always been unfriendly. We've had a few jokes together. In some ways, I quite like the man and his flamboyant ostentation. I enjoy it. And actually, he's a good speaker. But we had a debate arranged between he and I in 2015. And unfortunately for Zahi, he just completely lost it even before the debate began and started shouting at me and walked out of the room. And what was unfortunate for Zahi about this was that there was a member of the audience present who filmed this. And later on, when Zahi, after finishing sulking outside the room while I gave my talk, after he'd given his talk, he was then asked questions by the audience, and some of that was filmed as well. And in those questions, he revealed that although he regards himself as an incredibly experienced archaeologist, he had no knowledge whatsoever of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, the single most important archaeological site in the world today. So he ended up looking rather silly on these 2 bits of video that were put out there, not because of anything I did to him, but because he shot himself in the foot. And I think what's happened is that he's taken that very personally, and he doesn't want me to be given any access to Egyptian sites. I would say that Zahi is undoubtedly the person who, nowadays, ancient sites in Egypt come under the control of the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. The two are connected, and Zahi and the Minister of Tourism are close friends. There's a photograph of them celebrating a birthday recently. So it's pretty clear that this is why I got banned. Underlying it is an objection to my notion that there is an unwritten background to the ancient Egyptian story. I revere and admire ancient Egyptian culture of the historical period. This was an extraordinary culture, so dedicated to beauty and to truth, everything done with absolute perfection. I'm a huge admirer of ancient Egyptian civilization. It's a paragon of virtue and light in the ancient world. But to deny that it has a background, in my view, is a mistake, because the ancient Egyptians themselves made it very clear in their traditions that there was a background. And they spoke of a remote period, which they called Zep Tepi, the first time, when the gods, quote unquote, came to Egypt and brought civilization to Egypt and began to build sacred mounds all around the land of Egypt. And those sacred mounds would become the places upon which all future temples and pyramids would be built. So I actually am very happy to say that the ancient Egyptians of the historical period were the primary builders of the Great Pyramid and of the 3 pyramids of Giza, but that those pyramids stand on older platforms, and deep underneath the Great Pyramid is a subterranean chamber 100 feet vertically beneath the base of the Great Pyramid. I think that particular site goes back 12,500 years, and the pyramids then honor and overbuild and respect that much later with knowledge that had been passed down. Also at Giza, the Sphinx, the megalithic temples in front of the Sphinx, and a number of other structures on Giza, in my view, definitely date back 12,500 years. The geological evidence on the Sphinx that Robert Schoch has put forward, and kudos to Robert Schoch for being so courageous to run against the mainstream and go with his geological knowledge, that the Sphinx geologically is much older than 4,500 years, and that the most likely time that it was made was between 12,800 and 11,600 years ago, during the Younger Dryas. So I think Giza is a very complicated site. I think some of it's very ancient. Some of it was indeed built by the majestic builders that we know as the ancient Egyptians of the historical period, but that, as they themselves said, their knowledge, their understanding of geometry, their ability to make fantastically accurate observations of the heavens, this was all a legacy that came down to them from remotest antiquity. And so my dear friend, the late, great John Anthony West, who was just the most fantastic opponent of rigid mainstream Egyptology. He used to call them quackademics. John makes a point that ancient Egyptian civilization is not a development, it's a legacy. It's a legacy. And by following that point and by making that point about ancient Egypt, as I have done many times before, referring to ancient Egyptian traditions that speak of this legacy, this is what annoys archaeologists and Egyptologists. They claim that I'm stealing the credit for ancient Egyptian achievements for the ancient Egyptians. No, I'm not. I'm just saying that the origins of that knowledge are far older than Egyptologists are presently prepared to allow.
It seems to me that your views would just bring more interest in these sites and more tourists and more excitement about the past, which is what everybody in this industry wants.
Everybody wants excitement about the past. And this is another problem I have with archaeology, is that they seem to have dedicated themselves to draining the lifeblood out of the past, to find whatever is narrow and limited and doesn't speak widely in the past and focus on that. And not focus on the beauty and the truth and the magnificence and the mystery of the past. It's as though mystery is some kind of enemy that archaeologists wish to dispose of, and they go to great lengths to dispose of it and to just drain the blood out of the past. And it's most unfortunate because the past is mysterious. I've said that during the time when we have documents, the past is less mysterious than it was from the time when we don't have documents. But even from the time when we have documents, there are so many gaps, so many missing bits of the picture, that we should always be open to mystery in the past. We should not, our project should not be to deprive the past of mystery. It's to understand why that mystery is there and what it means.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's gonna be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm gonna tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone. Also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up. If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you gonna do? What's the choice that you're going to make?